It's the week before Christmas 2024, and for some reason we have a nice warm day outside. It's 55 degrees. It's been cold all week. It'll be cold all next week, but today it's warm. So we're going to take the table saw outside and cut some wooden panels. And these wooden panels will become a wooden box, and the wooden box will become the cabinet for the Ozark Patrol. Now I'm thinking of getting rid of the pine board that's the base of the Ozark Patrol. I don't see any point in having a board on top of another board. So we'll take the table saw outside and try to cut these panels to the best of my ability, which is saying something. And where do you see the table saw I have? My brother-in-law Andy gave me this table saw. It once belonged to his father. His father was in World War II, so I'm going to propose that he purchased this around 1950, which would make it 74 years old. Andy told me it rocks back and forth, so we have it outside on the gravel, and that'll take care of that problem. This thing here is supposed to guide the wood. You adjust it to where you want your cut to be from the blade, and lock this down. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. So I usually end up jamming something in here, and that will lock it. I have to measure this very carefully. The top and the bottom will be the length of the radio plus the two sides. Now I've got two pieces of scrap here. So this will be the width of the top and the bottom, so that when we put the sides on, everything matches up without too much slop. Now the first cut is going to be wider, and the reason for that is I need to cut off this ragged edge that came from the factory. Now I want to cut off these rough edges, and you would think logically the way to do that is to put this guide up close to the blade and cut a sliver off, but I found out the hard way that's not how you do it. If you do it this way, as you get halfway through the board, this will start to wobble, and it will ruin your cut and ruin your piece of wood. So we'll make the board a little bit longer than it needs to be. Cut it like this. Then we'll turn it around and cut off the sliver. And no sleeves or gloves, or it'll pull your hand right into that blade. Okay, top and bottom. Now we need two sides. And there's our wooden box for our cabinet. These boards are a little warped, I think. Does that look warped? I wanted to glue these together today and make the wooden box, but there's a slight warp in the boards. So I think I'll put a weight on them and let them sit for a couple of days. It's now 2 days later. I have some unwarped wood. It's 14 degrees outside and it snowed last night, so we were very fortunate that we had that warm day. So I've got the wood, some L brackets, some clips, and the glue. Now I had 4 L brackets, but 2 of them aren't square. So be very careful with your L brackets because they are made in China. China. The funny thing is, the thing I'm testing them with is also made in China. So today, we'll take the top or the bottom, we'll glue it together, and hold it with L brackets and clips till the glue dries. And we'll repeat that process for the other 2 sides. To give it some extra strength, I put this clamp on it, and glue did squeeze out. So it is doing something. I'll let this dry, and we'll do the other 2 sides. I used to watch the woodworking shows on public television. It was channel 12 in this area. It still is. And I used to watch Norm Abrams, and I would watch This Old House, and there was a really interesting one called The Woodwright Shop, where the guy, the carpenter, he would only use tools that you could find in the 17 and 1800s. And I've never seen anybody come up with an asinine contraption like this. So apparently, I didn't learn anything from watching all those shows. Well, it's fortunate that I had these clamps. I just found them. They've been in the dining room for like 6 or 7 years, still in the package. And it turns out that this top board was still warped. This was supposed to go on the inside. That's why this label's showing. So the board was bowed or dished, depending on how you had it oriented. I put the high side up and used the clamp to pull it down on both sides. You know, I bought these boards in the summertime, and now it's winter, and I think the lack of humidity has something to do with it. Anyway, I'm going to leave these clamps on until the morning. I'm afraid if I take them off too soon, the whole thing will pop apart on me. Well, now it's the next morning. We've got the clamps off, and amazingly enough, this box is square, which I almost didn't think was going to happen. If you go to the arts and crafts store, we've got one around here named Michael's. They've got all kinds of boxes there, and all different sizes and shapes. Some are square, some are rectangular, some have lids. Some are heart-shaped, some look like birdhouses, some look like treasure chests. And they're all pretty inexpensive, and they're built much nicer than I built this one. Makes you wonder how they do it. And now for the next step on our continuing adventure of making a cabinet. We need something to reinforce the corners and something to screw the front panel of the radio into. And I've got these things. I'm going to cut them to the appropriate length and glue them inside the cabinet. And the radio panel will screw into those. Now I'll countersink them about 1/8 of an inch. As for the back, I've got this nice piece of craft plywood, 1/8 of an inch, or 3 millimeters if you're into the metric system. Once I cut this, it'll fit real nice in here. And I'm entertaining the idea of a split back. One side will be fixed. The other side will be a door that you open to change the batteries. And I'm going to use these knurled nut binding posts for the antenna and the ground. Our corners have all been glued in. I held them in with these little clamps till the glue set. This is the back. This is the front. The back is recessed more than the front. Here's our back panel. This is very easy to cut. You just score it on both sides with a utility knife and snap it. So let's see how well it fits. Not bad. I don't even have to sand it. Now the next step is to take this outside and round off all of these outside corners. There are also some imperfections where the panels meet, and that will also be all sanded smooth. This is turning out to be really nice. It's almost a shame to put a cover on it. But I'm going to cover it because I want it to resemble the old Night Kid Space Spanner cabinet with the Lafayette KT-135. I've got a roll of this contact paper knockoff, AccuWall, vinyl self-adhesive sticker. And I was thinking of putting it on in one piece. I would start in the middle on the bottom and just wrap it all the way around. But then I'd have a little seam down here. So just like the old KT-135 cabinet, I'll do the top, the bottom, and the two sides all separately. Now, there will be a seam on the sides, but that's okay because that's the way the KT-135 or the Space Spanner cabinets were made. Nice, there's glue on it from the tape. I guess you don't use the end piece. Oh, more glue. Maybe that's why contact paper costs more than AccuWall paper. I thought I could wrap this up like a present, but presents don't have inside corners. I had to add some pieces to the corners. I think all in all it came out pretty well. It'll look nice when the radio's in there. This is a regen radio, and I thought perhaps I should shield the inside of the cabinet, even though it's probably not absolutely necessary. But the first thing that came to mind was aluminum foil. But then I thought I might not like the appearance of the aluminum foil inside there. So I went online and I bought copper foil. If you look at these numbers on here, it's 003 by 200. That's the size of this piece of copper. Now that's 3/1000ths of a millimeter by 200 millimeters. And I could not conceive of how thick or how thin 3/1000ths of a millimeter actually is. So I bought this based on the purchase price. The bigger this number, the more expensive it is. I wanted to use foil. I didn't want to use a copper plate. But I didn't want the foil to be thinner than this foil. And it doesn't tell you how thick this foil is. It gives you the length and the width of it, 25 yards by 12 inches. And then it gives it to you in millimeters, but it doesn't tell you how thick it is. So I couldn't use this as a reference. So we'll open this up and we'll see how thick or how thin it actually is. This stuff is perfect. It's thicker than the aluminum foil, but it's still a foil. It's not a copper plate. Now I just have to decide how to attach it to the inside of the cabinet. I can't find small enough staples for my staple gun. They'll end up popping out through the top of the cabinet. So perhaps I'll use an adhesive in lieu of staples. Here is the completed cabinet. Now it's time to get the Ozark Patrol, put it in the cabinet, and see what needs to be done to get a back on it.
It's brutal out there.
There's literally 10 minutes to go till this cabinet's done. But I spray painted the back panels with Krylon pewter gray spray paint. And it looks terrible. The color is clashing horribly with the color of the cabinet. Now I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but the color of this cap does not match the color that came out of the can. So I'll be popping off an email to Krylon later on today. The only problem is you have to wait 48 hours before you can put another coat of paint on here. So that 10 minutes has just turned into 2 days. Now it's a few days later. I've spray painted these panels a darker shade of gray, one that does not clash with the cover. There's that other color gray. I don't understand why you can't go to the store anymore and buy battleship gray paint. I was thinking of writing to the paint companies and asking, say fellas, what do you suppose would happen if we mixed white paint with black paint? Everything's got to have a fancy name and a fancy tint to it. This isn't even called gray, it's called iron. I'm going to attach this battery holder with this double stick alien tape in a reusable storage bag. Boy, these marketing people get on my nerves. I can't wait till this tape is used up so I can reuse this bag. The copper foil will be grounded by way of this lug that goes to the binding post for the earth ground. Now we'll attach half the gimmick capacitor to the binding post for the antenna. Now the ground goes to the other binding post. I think the cabinet turned out really nice. I give it an 8 out of 10. I would give it a 10, but it gets 2 points off. It gets 1 point off because the back is now so dark. I can't use my nice water slide decal labels that I made. I need to find somebody somewhere that can print in white. I tried printing these in yellow, but it didn't work. It gets another point off for these hinges on the battery door. What self-respecting radio has hinges? Every plastic radio, plastic electric toy, calculator, etc. has a battery door that comes off. That way you can lose it, find it later, put it in the junk drawer in the kitchen. 2 years later you clean out the junk drawer and you throw the battery door away, and a week later you find a calculator that you haven't used in years because it doesn't have a battery door. Anyway, I'm curious to see how this sounds. Hopefully the cabinet will improve the sound and not make it sound as though it's in a coffee can. So let's turn the radio on and see how it sounds, or hear how it sounds.
CHU Canada.
What the heck's going on with the radio?
Coordinated.
I'm gonna get it out of the house.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
Why is the smoke alarm going off?
I'm testing it. I'll be right back. Well, you know, shortwave actually comes in better in the evening and at night. So I think I'll dust this off and I'll maybe polish it up or something. And we'll try it again tonight after the sun goes down.
Of $5 is suggested for CDs and $10 for DVDs. Please identify the station over which you have heard this broadcast and provide the broadcast date when ordering. You may also receive our quarterly publication, The Midnight Cry Messenger, which is mailed out free and postage paid to all who request it.
Well, that sounds pretty good. It does not sound like it's in a coffee can. You're never going to get any high fidelity out of a regen radio, but I think all in all I'm pretty satisfied with this cabinet. Well, thanks for watching.